Popped has a very special guest joining us today, an international film, stage, and television star who is also an aficionado of Sherlock Holmes and member of the Baker Street Irregulars.
He was in Risky Business, Revenge of the Nerds, Better Off Dead, Moonlighting, Supernatural, and many, many other shows. Ben and I are thrilled to welcome Curtis Armstrong. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you.
Very glad to see you.
You and I have spoken, we've not spoken in person before.
Yeah.
But we have interacted on social media.
That's right.
And I gotta say, I feel a huge kinship with you, especially after having read your book. We're both huge Beatles fans.
This is it's a great time to be a Beatles fan, actually. I just watched part 3 last night of Get Back and am still with them.
Wonderful. It's in my queue. We've got all these things to watch for this podcast, and I'm like, oh, I got to get this in somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's it's an investment of time, but it is so worth it. I can't even believe it. I just didn't think there was anything left to say on that subject, but they seem to have more than covered it.
On top of all this stuff, I guess, you're also a self-professed nerd, which you say so in your book, a Sherlock Holmes fan, and you are in one of Ben and my favorite films of all time as Charles DeMar, Better Off Dead.
Yes.
You can always tell your fandom from what film they like, right?
It's become generational, so that, for the most part, I think it's kind of divided between those 80s things, between Risky Business and Moonlighting, and then, much later, Supernatural and New Girl and King of the Nerds and all of those, that you can sort of tell when I'm approached in public, I sort of get this instinct that I know where they know me from. Sometimes they surprise me, but
Okay.
they.
Would you have pegged us off the bat for Better Off Dead or no?
Sorry?
Would you have pegged us as Better Off Dead fans right off the bat or no?
Probably, yeah. I mean, Better Off Dead is one of those ones that has stood the test of time. So there are people, almost not quite my generation, because I was pretty old when I made it. But people from around the time that it was released, and then, it's something that families sort of share. It became this unlikely Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And I'm not I mean, it does have a scene in it around the Christmas tree, but where mom is handing out the frozen dinners.
Yeah.
But it's unlike Revenge of the Nerds. Revenge of the Nerds has a lot of baggage, and it hasn't aged as well as Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer and Risky Business. So it's nice that it's become as popular as it has.
Yeah, I agree. It's my go-to Christmas film, and every year somebody gets a copy of it on DVD from me.
Yeah, no, I'm amazed you can find it, actually, but I guess it's been out there at some point or other on DVD.
Yeah. But do you ever go back and watch any of your old work, or is that something you don't do?
No, I don't.
No? I have to ask that question. Some people do, and some don't.
Yes. I mean, the last time I remember really doing it was Moonlighting, because it was still relatively new.
Right. That
idea of being on a show every week, and you had sort of an investment in how it was done, and so with Moonlighting, I used to do it pretty much every week. But I haven't really done it since.
I'm thinking about, our first episode was Better Off Dead, because it's absolutely up in the top of our all-time favorites. Did
you talk to Diane Franklin on that?
Yeah.
We did. She was nice enough to come on and talk with us. She knocked our socks off.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, you talk about the film in your book, but are there any things that maybe didn't make the book that you'd like to share?
Well, I don't know, because I haven't read the book either. I mean,
Okay.
Just when you recorded it.
this is going back to 2017, which doesn't seem that long ago, but under
Actually,
current circumstances,
in the age of COVID, it's kind of forever.
Yeah. And so honestly, I don't remember what I said about Better Off Dead. I think I said pretty much everything that I was supposed to say. I mean, there were very few things that went into the book initially that didn't make the final cut, except for legal reasons.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There were some issues with a couple of my stories which were challenged, as they say, and had to be removed. But Better Off Dead was pretty much a breeze, and my recollections of it were very fond. They sent me the script when I was in Canada, in British Columbia. I was doing Clan of the Cave Bear, which is the 80s movie no one mentions, for good reason. And we were cave people. We were in caveman outfits. I mean, it was
okay.
And I was sitting in this cave set in full makeup as a cave boy, and reading this script by Savage Steve Holland called Better Off Dead, which had been offered to me. It was the first movie I hadn't had to audition for.
Neat.
And
That's awesome.
Well, he wanted it because he was a fan of Risky Business and Revenge of the Nerds, and I was the connecting thing between those two movies.
Okay.
Both of them, so he wanted me for this movie. And so I was reading it, and it was just so, I don't know, maybe 3 times in my career, I have read a script where I've said instantly, I don't care how we do it, I just want to do it. And that was the first one.
Very nice.
Right on. Yeah.
I like that.
I really, by the way, enjoyed that book.
Thank you.
I say I read it, but I really listened to you read it.
Right.
And one of my favorite stories is because of another thing you and I share in common is this last name.
Oh, sorry about that.
Hello, kitty cat.
That was Cooper.
I shut my door because mine will do the same thing.
Yeah, mine will, if I shut the door, they'll just stand out there and yell. And so I figured if they pass through, they pass through.
We're all cat lovers here, so it's all good.
Yeah.
But I was saying, we share the last name debacle, which is your last name's Armstrong.
Right.
Mine is Hendricks. And I was in stitches at work. I wear earbuds because I work with power tools a lot. And so I decided, hey, why don't I listen to podcasts and books and things like that? So here I am listening to that book and your story about hoodwinking Tom Cruise with the last name.
No. But I mean, you have to realize I wasn't deliberately hoodwinking anybody. Believe me, I would not think it funny on the face of it to tell people that I was related to Louis Armstrong. It would never occur to me to make a joke like that. What happened was, it was a period of time where a lot of white guys, young white guys, exclusively white guys, would make that joke. When they would hear my name, they would say, oh, any relation to Louis Armstrong?
Yeah.
It was like they had made this brilliant joke that no one would ever, and it became so aggravating and so weird. I just kept going, what is the Louis Armstrong joke? I just never got it. And so when I met Tom, that was the first thing he said was, any relation to Louis Armstrong? And I just, said, yeah, I am. I'm Louis Armstrong's grandson. And he looked at me with a sort of half smile as if, and then he went, really? What do you? And I just, it was out of irritation more than anything else that this joke was I was hearing this joke again,
Right.
but I didn't believe he would actually believe it. Usually when I said, yes, I'm related to Louis Armstrong, I'm his grandson, people would shut up. It would be,
Right.
well, obviously that's not true. But he thought, I don't know, he just bought it. And so it went on for some time. And I started finding out from other members of the cast and crew that Tom was going around saying, he's Louis Armstrong's grandson.
Oh, no.
And it had ceased becoming what it had started to be and become something I had to deal with. So
Yeah.
I wound up telling him, I'm not really Louis Armstrong's grandson. I was. And then I'm guilty of making the joke that I never liked to begin with. So
Oh, dear.
it was odd. And then I had to go to the director and I had to go to the other actors and say, no, I'm not really.
Well, from where I sat, it was hysterical. And part of the reason is when people would ask me, they'd say, are you related to Jimmy? Same exact thing. And I'd say, well, yes, Jim, he's my uncle. Now, my uncle's name was James R. Hendricks. So there you go. There you go.
You're right. My grandfather's name was Leroy Armstrong. So I don't, I didn't have even the wiggle room of having a grandfather who was actually named that. It was just,
I get the exasperation.
To give Tom credit, I told him that and he fell down. He thought it was so funny. He'd been wandering around thinking this. He took it very well.
3, 2,